I want to welcome you to a special episode of Diary of a Professional. I have two wonderful women that I'm going to introduce you to. Their names are Carla and Rachel. They are amazing moms, and we're going to get into all that. But ladies, you want to say hi before we
Hold on,
get
mom to
started?
be. I'm not a mom yet.
Oh, okay. I'm claiming it for you. How about that? All right. I will say it for you, but I understand. So I want to thank you for coming. We will be talking about mommyhood and all that it entails. And y'all be on the move. Like, I don't know two bigger movers and shakers than these two ladies right here. So if you want to please give the people a quick introduction of who you are, what you're about, what you do, we will start with Rachel.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, the many hats. So I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a small business owner. I am a truth seeker, fact checker. I am
Hey,
expecting my third
hey.
child. I hold a master's degree in health administration. I'm like a jack of all trades. Like I feel like I'm here, there, everywhere. I am an advocate for Black maternal health, which is something that I'm very, very passionate about. So yeah, that's like a little bit of a lot of me.
Just a little bit. Just
Just
a
a
little
little bit.
bit. Yes. Miss Carla.
um, well, I'm Carla. Um, I am a military wife. I am a mommy to be, expecting our first child on Halloween, so super excited. I'm also an administrator at a hospital in Arizona for HIV grants. I have my master's in public health, so I know all things public health that relates to pretty much everything. So I dabble in a lot of that and a lot of research. And now becoming, of course, a parent and dealing with maternal health officially, like myself, that's definitely been more of an area of focus and understanding, and really just I think understanding the difference between the US and being in other countries as it comes to maternal health. That has definitely been a huge eye opener during this process. And once again, super blessed that we're here. Um, and yeah, like I love to work out. Definitely a fitness buff.
Y'all both be
That is,
definitely on
Yes.
that.
Yes.
you could find me in a boxing bag. I can't wait till ours gets here. Um, yeah, and just, like as my cousin Mars knows, I'm definitely out here just here tossing, knowledge and just trying to accumulate as much as I can too. As I'm only 30, so I'm here to listen and learn, and that's like one of the biggest things about me. So
Well, that's wonderful. For those who don't know, I am a mother of twins, a boy and a girl. I am a nurse, pediatric nurse specialty in hematology, oncology, and bone marrow transplant. So that's cancers, disease of the blood, and stem cell transplant. But I'm also like fans of these wonderful women, but I wanted because I know the gems that they have and all the amazingness that they provide. So I just wanted to share it with the DOP audience a little bit. So Carla, and speaking of how you are in Germany, what have you noticed are the differences in healthcare abroad compared to over here?
they do all the same diagnostic tests, but when you go in, you're sitting at the desk with the doctor, you're having a conversation with them, they're asking you how you're feeling, what's been going on. They talk through, like your weight, what to expect. And then, you go and the doctor does the ultrasound with you. You're not going to an ultrasound tech or anything like that. They're doing it there with you. Um, and then following that, you do your stress test and they confirm everything's okay and you go. So I think for me, it's interesting to have so much one-on-one time with a doctor
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
feeling comfortable with them, because that's not a thing in the States. So
I will
that
say
is
from
definitely one
my
of the biggest differences.
yes, for my doctor's office, because it's, a practice, what's crazy is I didn't
Mm.
know them beforehand. So when they were my OBGYN, I still had to go through the cycle of every visit meeting a new doctor. So it's just like you
Mm.
get a feel, you have to just kind of trust your gut to be like, okay, I like them. No, I don't like them. And then I have to essentially pick one to be my main. But then if it's time of delivery and this one is the one who's on, that's the one who's going to deliver.
Yep.
Maybe that trade-off is worth it. Because I
Yeah.
also have had to switch my primary OB throughout this pregnancy, which is something that I never thought I'd had to do. But when you can't unknow what you know. And once you amass a
Right.
certain amount of knowledge, especially in like maternal health, and like Carla's saying, she's learning as a first time mother. When I was pregnant with my first and even my second, I was very ignorant. I'm not going to place it on the providers, because I do feel like it is our responsibility to educate ourselves. But I was so trusting. It was like whatever my doctor told me, I just went along with it. I was under the impression that my doctor has my best interest at heart. And in no way am I saying that, physicians are malicious and their whole intent is to just lead you down a path that is not favorable. But at the same time, as a woman, you were made for this. And there are just certain things, your
Mm.
gut feeling, your intuition. When something doesn't feel right, there's usually a reason for that. And I didn't trust my instincts, with my prenatal care and birth experiences with both of my sons. So with this pregnancy, coming off the heels of getting my master's, and it was like the Lord prepared me for a time such as this. Like everything that I had learned, and I was just
Mm.
like, "Oh, I can't stay here. Like I cannot go through that again. Like, this is like my redemption pregnancy." So they must hate me
Hey,
when I walk in because
it's
I'm just
time to
like,
shine.
is this evidence based or is this protocol? And I know once I start saying certain words, they're just like, oh, he's one of
The
those.
trigger.
I think it's so funny that you say that because I think that was being here was the first time I ever heard a doctor say, "Yeah, we don't do that here. That's not evidence based." And I was like, "Yes, I can't.
Yes.
I'm so happy to deliver here."
Yeah,
I
hard.
was literally like, oh,
Like,
"Excuse
oh my,
me, my love language."
like, oh my, woo. That is a love language,
And for y'all
girl.
that don't know, evidence-based practice, or anything that's evidence-based means like it's been researched, like it's gone through rigorous tests, like there's
Yep,
a criteria and protocol it has to go through for them to be like, we're going
it's
to
been through
continue this
IRB, all
baby,
that stuff.
or we're going to change it, or amend it because the data and overwhelming data shows this is what is best. So yes, honey, not just because this is how we've been doing things, or this is
Right,
what I like to do and this works for me.
Yeah,
No, 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 we're not doing
right.
that. Whew,
And
yeah,
and
okay.
that's the thing. These are things that who's gonna teach you? Who's gonna tell and it's not we live and so going back to just Carla's experience being in Germany and just how we do things in the US.
Yeah.
This is where we live. It is what it is. But we do have to work so much
Yeah.
harder to find the quality of care that is somewhat comparable to what other women are receiving overseas in a lot of European countries. And it's
yeah.
so sad because we are a first world country. The technology is there, but
Um,
unfortunately, there are, well, child, I don't know if we
Well,
got
it's
time.
interesting. So it's interesting because, talking to the providers here, like especially for the hospital I'll be delivering at, um, we were, kind of talking the fact that I'm excited to deliver here. And he was like, "Yeah, I think it's great that you're delivering here." I was like, especially being a Black woman. And he was just like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the US. Like the disparities, and this is coming from a doctor saying this, like the
Hmm.
disparities, it's like four times, for
Regardless of
Black people, Black women that
education.
they're going to pass
Yep.
away.
Yep.
Yeah, regardless of education or anything like
It
that, like
doesn't
when you
matter. Yeah.
control for all of these things.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I think it's best that you're delivering here too." This is coming from a doctor, and he
Absolutely.
did, practice in the States at some point too. So,
mm,
for someone to come in and say that to you, it's just like it's eye opening. Like the U.S. has a real problem,
They do.
and it's just not acknowledging that Black people really have the same pain factors as anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
You can't
Right.
sit there and say we're stronger or anything like that. Like I bleed red just like you do. I deliver a child
Absolutely.
the same way you do. So
Ooh.
don't treat me
It's
any differently, but
unfortunate.
you
It
are.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? There is plenty of research showing there's a term called weathering that was coined by a scientist in the early 90s. Basically, weathering is that Black women, Black people in general, are predisposed to certain health conditions because of racial biases, because of social and economic conditions. We age faster, we are predisposed to
Hmm.
blood pressure and other certain things that can complicate your pregnancy further, right? And so when you understand that and you realize going into it that, number one, there are doctors that will tell you, yeah, unfortunately, there are racial biases within the healthcare system, which we already know because we're experiencing it. But
Yeah.
if you go to an urban
Right.
hospital, the quality of care is extremely different than if you're in a hospital that is in a more economically sound area. And
Yep.
so for us to have to be aware of that is so unfair. Like, I'm already pregnant. I'm already going through the ebb and flow of my body, changing hormones, but now I got to research. What is the, like that is something
Right.
that your
Yeah.
counterpart does not have to think about. And yet, when you hear birth experiences of white women, they advocate for themselves, whether it be privilege or not. They're not afraid to say no. They're not afraid to say, well, where does this research stem from? Whereas we have this fear that we don't want to go against the grain. We don't want to make waves. We don't want to be labeled as that, angry Black woman. And that's so unfair to us
Yes.
because it's literally life or death. It's literally the difference between a morbidity circumstance arising and a mortality circumstance. And it's just when you understand those things and when you equip yourself with the knowledge, the support system, the village, whatever it may be, you are empowering yourself for your health. Like, these forums are so important. I have a doula for this pregnancy, and she just so happens to be a white woman. um and I told her straight up, as I interviewed all the doulas that I was potentially going to use, I said, I am not basing my decision on whether you're Black or white, but I need you to understand what it is that I'm looking for. And she was the only one that went back to some of the things I said during our conversation. And she was like, I just need you to understand that I will never know what it's like to be a pregnant Black woman. But what I do know is I have witnessed some of the issues that Black women deal with um, when it comes to their prenatal care, when it comes to delivering. And she was like, I will stand by yours. I will advocate for you. If you say no, no is no. And I was like,
Mm.
sis, you're hot. Because it's just what
Higher.
we
Yeah.
can't do is not acknowledge this. It's happening.
That's that whole I don't see color thing. No, my color exists. It
No.
just shouldn't be the reason why I'm treated any less than. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Yes. Acknowledge we it's okay to have differences. Your hair could be straight and mine's curly. That doesn't make one better than the other. And one
Right.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
treated any better than the other. Hello.
Absolutely.
Whew. So what
Yeah,
made you want to get a
100%.
doula?
So again, so it's funny because obviously us being Haitian culturally, I feel like there's just certain things. So now this is where it gets a little comical. I knew what a doula was, but I didn't know what a doula was, right? So
Um,
when I did my focus on Black maternal health, and I was looking at statistics, and they tell you that women who have a support, a doula, a midwife, they have better health outcomes when it comes
right.
to labor and delivery, right? So I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I was like, "Mom, I think I'm gonna doula." She's like, "A doula? What's a doula? What are we doing here?" Like, what kind of? And I'm like,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
explain to her. I'm like, "Mom, it's like she must have thought I was gonna become a Buddhist or something." Like, I'm like, this is like, what kind of mystical? So what are they gonna do, or like, what are they gonna say to you? And I laugh
Right.
because I think in that innocence of not knowing, there are just certain things we hear about, and we're like, oh, you must have to be like a hippie, or you must have to be very like free spirited to have these things. And it's like, no, a
Right.
doula is a birth support person. Anyone can be a doula, really, essentially. But there are
Hmm.
certifications and there are classes that you can take in order to equip yourself. And of course, experience. She has over 10 years experience. Her herself, she's a mother. Um, but it was important to me, to go back to your original question, to have one, because I felt like when I had my boys, I was in a position where I was so scared to speak up for myself. And there were a
Mm.
lot of things that I didn't know. And I wondered to myself, like, what if I did have that encouragement throughout my pregnancy? To have someone to kind of piggyback, almost like a birth therapist in a way, like someone that you can go
Mm.
to with the ebbs and flows of pregnancy and say, hey, what do you know about this? Can you give me some research to look at? Like, kind of just buffer the things that you might know or not know at all. I found out that I had a UTI with this pregnancy that went undiscovered for weeks. They called me after I had given that urine culture like 3 weeks prior. They're like, "Oh, so we need you to
Right.
come in for a repeat." And I said, "Wait a minute. Um, that sample, that visit was like 3 weeks ago. You're just
Way
calling me
back
about this
when.
now? That is not okay. I could have developed pyelonephritis, and I'm getting real technical, but there are
Mm.
certain things that can happen when some of these infections go unresolved, or preterm labor, miscarriage, yada yada, serious things for you and your baby, right? So I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. I stayed calm. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait until my visit. I'm going to read the room. Let me talk to my doctor, see what's what. Let her take accountability. Things happen. Fine. I walk in, we're discussing it. And, she's like, how have you been? And like Carla said, you're so used to waiting all this time. You get your little golden 5 minutes, right, with your provider. And I'm going through everything that I had been feeling in that time frame. And I'm waiting for her to acknowledge this error. Like, okay, so sorry, that shouldn't have happened. How are you feeling? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
She listens to me and she's like, oh, okay, well, by the way, you've only gained 9 pounds so far. Don't gain any more weight for the rest of your pregnancy. I'm I'm sorry. Come again? So what? So you're not going to acknowledge the imminent danger that I could put. And I'm being extra now, but honestly, like, let's be real. I had an infection. I don't care what it could have been, my pinky toe that I stubbed, and I needed a tetanus shot. The point is, you didn't acknowledge the error in your lab or however it works, but you're worried
Yes.
about my weight. At that point, I was 27 weeks pregnant. I only gained 9 pounds, and in no way, shape, or form does it matter at this point. I don't have diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure. There is no indication that my weight correlates to any health issue in my pregnancy. I'm healthy. Why does it matter how much weight I've gained or will gain? Like, that is not important. But I come to find out, she's the type of provider that is like extremely anal about weight gain. That is a big thing for her. She scares a lot of her patients about that. Don't gain too much weight. If you gain too much weight, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Right there, I left. I spoke to my husband
Wow.
about it. I called my doula, and my doula had other clients who she was a provider for. And she said, I didn't want to share that information with you because I didn't want to put a bias that might not have been your experience. And she
Right.
was like, but now that you're saying this to me, this is something that I've heard from other patients. It's not unique to you. It's not personal to you, but it's unfair. And I said, yeah, because what if I had an eating disorder before I was like, you don't know where my
Yeah.
mindset is at. My body's changing. Like, that could have been so triggering for me. And again,
Absolutely.
someone who went through the ebbs and flows of losing weight and being fit and then to gain weight to be pregnant, and now you're talking about my weight gain, like, ma'am,
Yeah.
bye. So I changed my provider again mid-pregnancy at 27 weeks. I was like, all right, it's time for me to go. I would have never had the gumption to do that
Mm.
before. I would have suffered in silence, and I would have been like, oh my God. And I would have been walking on eggshells and then having this anxiety and this fear because now I'm worried about gaining weight. And because I had a doula who was able to give me a different perspective and gave me a list of other providers and was sharing things with me, and it was just like, you know what? No, I am going to do this. You're right. It's okay. She was like, you don't have to stay there. She was like, she works for you. She's your provider. Your insurance pays her. If she's not satisfying your needs, you can fire her. And I was like, wait, fire my like, you know what I mean? And that's just to show
Yes.
you how there are things that you kind of, you're like, oh, I don't, oh no. And she was like, no, no, I will email you a list. You look at it and you do what you feel is best for you. And if you want to stay with her, then I will help you and we will work through those appointments, but you don't have to. And I was like, okay. And I switched my provider again and found another amazing, phenomenal provider and did even more research because now it's like, okay, I'm learning on every experience. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do and blah, blah, blah. And so the journey has been filled with so many learning curves because
Right.
you never just learn everything. This is my third pregnancy, but in a way, it's almost like my first. And you're constantly gaining knowledge from everyone around you. Like I love
Mhm.
hearing about other people's experiences. I love, just like Carla watching you and me and you, we have little conversations,
Yeah.
on social media, but I'm so proud of you as a first time mother because I think you're already aware and you have the confidence going into this pregnancy to say, no, like, and that is so important. It is so
So
admirable because you don't.
thank you. So I do want to speak on it because I feel like you've brought up a lot of good points. And I've worked at public hospital systems for a little while now. So kind of what,
Mhm.
like where a lot of my knowledge has come from and working with providers and really understanding like their thought process too. And then
Mhm.
also me coming in always as a patient, like understanding what my needs are. Um, so the doula piece, I remember I wanted one initially. They're expensive as fuck. Excuse the language. I don't know if I can curse on
No,
this.
that's
Sorry.
all good.
They are
Some insurances
expensive.
will cover midwives in the States. I will say that.
Midwife,
Yes,
yes,
midwives
midwives,
because
but
they're
not doulas.
clinical, yeah, not
Yeah,
doulas.
not doulas
Except
because
for
they're
one
not.
state. Rhode Island, I think, just recently passed a law where
Oh,
they're now looking to cover doulas. Yeah, it's
that's
amazing. It
great.
just happened like 2 months ago. But yes, they're not covered.
Yeah,
Expensive.
doulas, yeah,
Absolutely.
doulas are
Hmm.
not. But they're great in providing like a lot of knowledge, right? But for me, like we realized early on like this was going to be expensive and we weren't going to be staying in like the state that long once, Justin got his orders and everything like that. My husband got his orders. So that wasn't a thing, but because of the fact that I work with doctors and in the field of HIV, which is also a very, traumatic field for a lot of people. And we've learned a lot from how providers have treated their patients there. And,
Yes.
kind of correlating that to birth and things like that because some of their patients do come up pregnant and how they deal with them and within my job we kind of have forums where the patients talk about their experiences and how some of these providers are really focused on the wrong things. If I'm coming in and I'm
Mm.
telling you that my toe hurts and then you're looking at me and saying, oh, but I think you need to run more, I said my toe hurts, let's
Right.
focus on the toe
Yeah,
and get what I asked for and handle that.
absolutely.
And then maybe we can come back to the fact that I should run more.
Yeah,
Like they're
absolutely.
Right.
providers come in with their own agenda sometime and they're not really listening to you as the patient. And you have to
Yep.
remind them and redirect them. And if they're not listening to you, then like Rachel did, it's time for you to go,
Yeah.
especially when it's not just your life at hand, it's your baby's life too. That's when you have to say, you know what, as uncomfortable as this is to speak up and speak out on someone that might be highly more educated than you, at the end of the day, this is my life and my child's life. So I have to. Because
Absolutely.
you're not gonna be dealing with the, the factors afterwards. That's gonna be me and my family.
Yeah,
No ma'am.
Yeah.
absolutely. Hmm.
I
Yes, your mommy to be is, but because you already have that instinctual, like, no, my baby is, I am a vessel. My baby is being grown and nurtured in me. No, I will not do that. I need some time to think about that. Like, it starts from in the womb. I think, we have this thing where we're just like, no, I can't claim Mother's Day yet. I'm not, my baby's not here.
yeah.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You earned that title. Okay. I absolutely, because I used to think like that too. Like oh no, I'm not gonna say no, 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 because there are certain things that you're like, ooh, where'd that come from? Who am I? But you're like, no, I don't want that. No,
I,
I'm not.
I
And
don't know. I
every
think
decision.
I think I say that because it's like, this is me. Like this is how I would handle
Yeah,
myself, even if it's for me. Like, of course,
yeah,
I'm gonna go harder because it's my kid. And I think, like me saying like I'm a mom to be is more so because I watch, like you guys actually like raising your kids like out of the womb. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish you could stay here forever because this is safe, right? Like that's this it's actually making me like I'm like ready for her to be out, but like I'm also scared because I'm like, oh my God, like you're not like I can't control
Right.
I
this
can't
anymore.
give you that
Like
100%.
You get to be
Girl,
your whole own person with your own
yeah, like you're gonna
personality.
come
And
man,
out.
no.
that
Like
is so true. It's like I gotta
so
share you with the
that's
world.
where my my piece of
Yeah.
that comes from. It's not to say
No, I
like,
get
yeah,
it.
those
Yeah.
instinctive factors come in, of course, when you're pregnant, but then it's like, oh, we're apart now, and now I have to like watch you grow into the person that you're meant to be, and like keep you safe, and like help you
Mm.
form these thoughts and this confidence and this
Yeah.
vulnerability and like all these pieces of like being a full person, and I'm like, do I even have that yet? Oh God. Like
And you know what? We don't fully have it. We're still, I didn't start to grow up. And I say start because it's a verb, it's a continuous thing. I didn't start to grow up until I became a mother. And here I am with baby number three on the way, and I'm still growing. My kids teach me every single day. What I learned with Rain, I it didn't work with Riley. Was a whole new learning curve. It was completely different. Me and Marlo talked about that too. Everything from education to understanding, different personalities. What works with one doesn't work with the other, and it's a constant. Okay, back to square one. It's not one size fits all. Patience, grace. Like there are so many adjectives I can use to describe the journey of motherhood, and it is never ending, and it is the most beautiful, frustrating challenge ever in the world because they're yours. Like you created them. Like God gave you stewardship over these children, and it's just like, wow. Every accomplishment that they make, it's like I was a part of that. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm okay. And when they get older, they're gonna tell me how I messed up, and I'll just have to take it them. But for right now, they are
Right
alive.
now, they don't know either. Okay,
They
they
don't
don't
know
know what it.
either.
They don't have another mom who's like, "Ooh, she was better than this one. I'm gonna turn her." Y'all gonna be
No. Yeah, they don't know. I read a meme the other day, and it was something to the effect of, these kids don't even care how much you've changed your life for them. And I started laughing hysterically because I'm like, I'm sitting here priding myself, like, yeah, I don't go out as much and I've become this more mature woman. They don't care about that. They're not looking at me like, wow, mom, you've evolved. Look at who you are. You think they're
No,
worried about whether I'm out here? Like, they don't care.
no.
They're just like, listen, I didn't ask to be here. Y'all gonna get you tired? Sorry. That don't got nothing to do with me.
What?
But it's
No, they
like,
will tell you you sleep all day. Why are you always sleeping? Why are you always tired? What did you do? Let's do that. What?
that's the part. I'm like, I'm not ready for like that mirror where it's just like, wait, what? You're really throwing this in my face. I thought I was doing good.
listen, the hardest thing is parenting the you and your children. I see so much of me in my kids, and I'm just like, oh
Disgusting.
my gosh. My oldest, I can't, it's humbling because I'm like, that's me. And it's like, okay, I'm not trying to break your spirit. I love this personality. It's just not appropriate right now. It's gonna be
Yeah.
popping in about 15 years. But right
Why are you
now, this
speaking to me right now? You're literally speaking. Carla knows. Carla knows.
Yes.
oh my
So
god.
daughter. That is my daughter because she's me 2.0. Like growing up, I was very shy, very quiet. Like it could be somebody I know, and they're like, you know them, I'm mute. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But from the womb, I knew who my daughter was. I named her Kaden, not knowing it meant warrior and fighter, and that's
Mm.
she is. Even in the womb, she was fighting her brother. Okay, just elbowing all the stuff. And, and I do encourage my kids to ask me questions. I don't want them to be defiant or disrespectful, but, we'll get to the whole, how we were parented versus how we want
Right.
to parent. But, I encourage that. But she's me 2.0, and especially as a female, like, I love the fact that she's outspoken and she says how she feels, and when it's no, it's no. I've seen her at 2 years old. We had a contractor. She didn't. something about his spirit didn't speak to her. And he said, "Hi, little girl," and she straight pushed him off. I'm not gonna be like, "Hey, that's not nice," because there's something that she knows that I can't see, something she
Mhm.
can do for me,
Mhm.
and I can appreciate that. But baby, when it's
Hmm.
directed at me, hello,
Humbling.
they know 911. I can't just box her like that. You know, they come with a different set of information that we didn't know. We were really
Wow.
actually innocent. These kids, they know too much and they do too much.
Mm-mm. They're
Good,
tenacious. It's
Carla.
their energy is different, and it's like in that moment, it's like you want to just box them, but you're also like, wow, like you can't let them see the wow part. You are fearless. I could never approach my.
Ever,
Who do you think you
ever.
are? But that's the thing, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I love this for you, and in this climate, in this day and age, I hope nobody ever intimidates you because you are a powerhouse. Like I tell my kids, like I want them to be powerhouses for their generation. Stand in your truth, but at
Even if you
home,
stand alone, even if you stand
even
alone,
even
child.
if you stand alone, even if you stand alone, and it's like, that is the beauty of it. And what you were saying about how we were raised, we weren't raised in that culture. And my parents are amazing. I am the biggest mommy and daddy's girl. I love my parents for everything that they knew, and they did the best with what they had. And coming from a whole other country and acclimating to different culture and going through their share of shame and humiliation, because they were all intelligent beings, and now they have to deal with learning a new language, learning a new culture, assimilating
Right.
to this way of life in a time period where they were not welcomed. Being Haitian was very much so frowned upon. There are stereotypes upon stereotypes with Haitian people. And so I can't even imagine what that looks like for
You know,
them.
it's
And in
funny.
spite of that, mm,
It's funny that you say that because now me and my mom are actually able to bond over it because that's what I'm experiencing in a sense, being, in
a
Germany,
foreigner.
different
Yeah,
culture, different language, and, you know, us finally like having those conversations and, understanding this was not like, it wasn't, of course, we know it wasn't easy, right? Like
right,
I
right.
doing
don't
the
think
best,
we get the
but
magnitude of it, but yeah, of
yeah,
course.
you don't get the magnitude of it at all. But, like me talking to her and like in regards to, okay, we're going into the grocery store and I have no idea what any of this stuff means.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, you
Wow.
know what I mean? Like it,
Yes.
and we have translators on our phone. For her, she's explaining like, you really had to, deal with people that you probably normally wouldn't because they have the same culture and language as you. And then you're getting screwed over left and right. So you're like, who do I trust?
Yeah,
And then that's
yeah.
hardening you up as, even more. And you're just like, I don't want my kids to have to deal with this. So it's just interesting because I think for me at least I'm getting more of those stories and how, coming here and like trying to build while like learning something so new and parenting and something that is like so foreign to you because American kids, are like
Yeah,
free
yeah,
and like this is
yeah.
not what they do back home. So it's very, very interesting now because there are things I'd probably say like a year ago that I wouldn't say to my mom now because I'm just like, I get you. I get
Right.
it. I
And
definitely
that's why storytelling and sharing these experiences, it's all about sharing experiences. It's so important because I feel like you said, I understand my parents so much better now because now as an adult and a parent and having better conversations with them, I'm like, that's why you were so protective. That's why you didn't want us to do like it wasn't because you were just trying to be a mean, strict Haitian parent. I mean, we still have our
Yeah.
triggers, we still have our traumas. But the reality is
Yeah.
it was coming from a genuine place. And it wasn't until, I hear certain things and I'm like, you went through that? That's crazy. That makes sense. Light bulb moment. Now and then you go through the series of things that you remember dealing with, different points of contention. And you're just like, wow, okay, I understand. And it's humbling because nobody has it figured out. Like, I really don't know. Kudos to you, Carla, because I think it's so admirable. Like you're dealing with the language barrier, cultural barrier. It's a
Right.
pandemic. Like there are so many different facets to your experience being a military wife, not having your husband there for every aspect, which I totally relate to because my husband is a Con Ed employee and he's never home. I'm like a single married he hates when I say that, but it's so real. Like he hasn't been to my prenatal appointments partially because of the pandemic, and partially because his schedule doesn't allow for it. And so sometimes you're kind of like isolated, and you're just like, wow, like this is real. I'm. You can only grow stronger with these experiences. So it's a lot, but it's a beautiful a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I would never recommend getting pregnant during a pandemic.
No,
Tell
I
me,
agree.
I would not
tell
recommend.
me, tell me
It adds
about
a
that because
different
I don't know
layer.
that experience.
So
It adds a
I
different layer of
it
stress
does.
to everything.
And
Like, yeah, everything is just a little bit different. The precautions are a lot more. Like, you don't. I feel like it's not as relaxing in certain, aspects.
no.
Like, I went to register for the hospital here, and they told my husband he need to go step outside. I was there for an hour and a half. Like they even did like, like an ultrasound, and this was like the first time he could actually be at an appointment. He couldn't even be there. So it's just like the things that you'd want to share with your spouse and kind of go through and make sure that they're, educated as well so they can support you. They
Right.
can't even be in the room. And then,
No.
them saying like, oh, you have to be in active labor to like actually get a room, and then that's when your spouse can be there. So it's like,
Oh,
okay, well, I'm not in active labor and I just need to walk down the hall. I got to walk by myself or I got to go outside because it's that strict.
wow. Yeah. Oh,
Absolutely.
wow.
I
Well,
I
Rachel,
was
you've
too
had
scared.
both experiences.
Yeah, and it's night and day. Night and day. I mean, I just went for my hospital tour yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there are signs everywhere. There's like no visitation. And if there is, it's one visitor between 2 p.m. and 6. Nobody, I mean, granted, I don't need anyone
Yeah.
coming to see me after I have this baby, but it's just to show you, like, you had your baby, your family was able to come and drop off flowers and balloons. And now it's like, no, there will be none of that. And then on top of that, going back to your support system, um, my husband barely made the cut. It was like, listen, you can have support people. If you have a doula, they absolutely can be there because they're supporting. Your husband is going to be, he's not a visitor. He's your husband, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay. But that was even like a little bit of a,
Wow.
he just made the cut kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, my gosh. And I know every hospital has their own rules and protocols depending on the size and different things. And of course, getting COVID tested. They will be
Yeah.
testing the mother prior to. You
Yeah.
may have to labor with a mask on. Like it's just all
It's a
these
lot.
things that you have to do. Walking, like you can be in your room without a mask, but if you're in the hallway, like it's crazy. You're not in the mindset for that. So to have to think about these additional protocols, which I
Wow.
respect them, but it's like I'm about to have a baby. That's not gonna be at the
Like, can I
forefront of
just
my
focus on
mind.
that one thing? Just the one.
Right. Like,
That's a
man,
lot.
it's it
Make you
is
want to
a
have a
lot.
home birth.
And
Wow.
that was my again, if I never wanted the home birth experience for myself. I think it's so beautiful. I love it for anyone who decides to do it. It's just not my personality for that. And I just think I had traumas in my first experience that kind of led me to want to have the additional safety of being in a hospital. But
I
I
want the drug.
understand. You want the drugs, which
That's
I
Ain't
get
nothing
that
wrong
too.
with it.
And there is nothing we like. I'm gonna say this for all the listeners. Whatever you choose for yourself when it comes to your birth plan and whatever. I mean, we don't know what the final, result will be, but
Yes.
as long as you had autonomy in your decision making, that was the best birth plan for you. There is
Period.
nothing wrong with whether you have your baby via C-section or whether you want an epidural or whether you decide to go drug free or home birth. Whatever it is, as long as it's what you wanted and it was a shared decision and it wasn't forced on you, then it's a win. And that's what I'm learning this time around. But
All day.
I get now why so many women are like,
like I know, as parents and soon to be parents, like we've all been through different things. Like we just did a major move across the ocean while, I was 6 months pregnant. you going through pregnancy while your kids are, still being homeschooled and going through the pandemic. Mars, kind of the same thing in the sense, you're working, kids are in, well, you were like teacher and everything. And like, what does
Don't
that
bring me back
self-care
there.
look like within motherhood for everyone?
Hmm. See, it. I feel like thankfully they're the same age. So it's not this tiered level of, I have to give you this much, I have to give you this much, you're in different classes. No, thank God, because I don't know how y'all do it. And especially like for you, Rachel, adding a whole nother level. Like I already have two at baseline, and you're adding a third one, dynamics change. I don't think I had it, to be honest. I honestly don't feel like I did because also, as a nurse, working 12 hours, 3 days a week at least. Okay, yes, I'm not working every day. I'm not doing the 9 to 5. But let's say it might be easier for me to work on the weekends because I want to be present with my kids during the week. So maybe, I try to work Friday and Saturday, and that works better for me. And that's like the traditional days to have off. I slept more on my couch than I did in my bed because they're doing school in the living room. I need to be there, even if I fall asleep, just so I can hear what the teacher's saying, just to make sure that they got it, that they're on task, that they're not elsewhere. I think it's one of those things. Like even with the pandemic, I think you kind of just put your head down and do your work, and I don't really come up for air until it's over. I'm one of those people, like they're like, oh, you're so calm, because I just have to stay task oriented, because to me panicking solves nothing. That's just taking away energy from what needs to be done. And then when I can sit back and reflect, I'm like, what the fuck? Oh shit, how did I even? And I don't know how I could have, because there were so many different question marks and things we didn't know about COVID. Like this is when, you could get a package in the mail that might have came 3 weeks late because Amazon was on some shit, and you were wiping down the cardboard. You know what I mean? You just didn't know. Some people were driving around their car with their mask on because you just didn't know how it was circulating in the air. And I don't know. Probably, binge watching Netflix and food. That was probably it. That was probably my self care, to be honest. I don't even know.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
the
God.
top of the pandemic, I think it was self-preservation more than it was self-care. I don't think the switch into self-care happened until we had better understanding of the
Yeah.
transmission and things started to like seem, and I use normal very loosely, but or maybe we were just acclimating to the fact that this was the reality. But
Mhm.
it was very difficult because it was something that nobody thought that they would ever see in their lifetime. It wasn't just an epidemic, it was a pandemic. Everyone across the world was going through it. And
Yeah.
I just remember
Is
like having
is
yeah, it's insane. And I think in one like the I don't want to say beauty, but one of the things that I realized is that that time frame allowed for a lot more transparency. I think there was a
Yeah.
lot of faking it till you make it, and because we all were going through this really traumatic thing, conversations were happening amongst like my mommy friends and other peers that probably wouldn't
Yeah.
have happened because everyone thought everyone was doing better than them and okay, and you didn't want to show that you didn't have it together. And that kind of went away for a while because we were all scared and we all didn't know what was going on. And that kind of
Right.
helped get through that initial hump of, from March to May or June or whatever it was, where it was like the height of it. And at that point, once I really felt overwhelmed, I had to really have a conversation with my husband like, listen, all right, so this is the game plan. I'm still going to be doing everything I'm doing, but I'm going to need time. Like, even if it's an hour by my, even if it's not even me leaving the house, but it's me isolating myself from you and the kids, I need time because I cannot continue to go on ripping and running like this. It is not healthy for me. It's not healthy for us or for the children. And when I was able to like verbalize that, I think there was a shift because then I started to realize that I'm only as good as my sanity too. Like I can't pour
Right.
into my husband or my kids when I'm running on fumes. Like I literally can't. So things like
Right.
going for a walk, or getting my nails done when that was safe to do, or like
Right.
whatever it is. Like I had to be really deliberate about doing those things because otherwise it was just, no, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, the pandemic in a sense kind of it leveled the playing field, right? Like in a way. And I take that into pregnancy now because, and I ask the question now because you're about to run a nonstop marathon with a newborn, right? And you still have, other things that you have to work on as well, like your relationship with your spouse, work, friends, family, all those things that are still going on. And it's like, what do you do to take care of yourself? And I think the pandemic made us stop and kind of think about that.
Yeah.
Like, we've been running on E and now it's on
Yeah,
overdrive within this. Like, what do I do for
Absolutely.
myself? And how do I
right,
continue to keep that up? So
right.
it's nice to hear that, like for you, Rachel, like you're like, no, I need that hour a day
Yeah,
and like maintaining that through. And then, Mars, for you kind of realizing like, well, what do I do? Like, I need to think
yeah,
about that a little bit more. Like, what
yeah.
do I
Yeah.
do that I can maintain if something like this were to happen again? Because, you truly don't know. Like, we're going to be parents and we have to like, or we are parents and, we have to kind of keep ourselves, above water and be present. And you can't do that if you're running on E. So,
No, you
Nope.
can't. And to be
It'll
honest,
show.
yeah,
we what our normal wasn't healthy. People are like, oh, I can't wait for things
exactly.
to go back
Yeah.
to normal. That wasn't the way we should have been living. And there are so many things that I
Right.
realized I don't want to go back to. And like you said, having that conversation with yourself, like, what does this look like for me? Or, being able to articulate and say, no, I need this from you. I wasn't raised to be vulnerable. Like, it's just, if I need to do something, I get it done. And I had to learn to lean on my husband more because I'm like, I shouldn't have to do this by myself. I don't want to do this by myself, even though I
Yeah.
have been. But I need you in this space or whatever because it's the best thing for my mental health in this time frame. And to be honest, like when people say, "Oh, are you ready for the third?" and I'm like, "Of course, physically, I'm ready. I'm ready." But mentally and emotionally, I'm like, man, this is gonna be a new transition again. Like now I'm juggling a new baby that needs me totally, and then my two older ones. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not gonna, be overly confident, like, yeah, I got this in the bag because it's been
They
six
will
and a
humble
half
you.
years since I've
Yeah.
had an infant to care for. So I don't know. It's going to be a whole new experience all over again. And all I can do is say, I am willing to take whatever I can take from anyone else, be it words of encouragement, words of advice, you know, someone offering their help in a way that I need. There are times where you feel like, oh, that makes me less of a mom if I say, yeah, I need it. No, it
Nope.
does not. If you're saying, oh, no, I'll take your older too so you could get a thank you, I received that, and that's the beauty of it. It's just being able to accept the help when you can get it because we do so much as women and we don't allow ourselves that vulnerability. We don't allow ourselves that rest, and it's so necessary to our well-being. Like, you need it. Carla, I'm so happy that you do have a community of people that you're, getting used to and that you're able to like find, because that's so important, like that village. And I pray that it continues to grow because in a lot of ways, even being here, having your family and friends, everyone's busy. Like everyone has a life. So you don't always have the support, even if you're home. Like people are working. Everyone is on the go in New York. Everyone is on the go.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to say, I'm gonna take a seat because I don't want to burn out, you know?
Yes. I agree. I love this. I love this. I love y'all. Y'all just dropping all the gems. Like I feel like I had questions. I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even care. I'm just talking to my girls. Um, it was just wonderful. I feel like, for people who are moms out there or who are going to be moms or want to be moms, my tidbit is definitely take care of yourself. Trust your gut because people will, throw all types of information and their fears and what they went through on you, and this is how you should do it. Do what works best for you. Um, and don't apologize for it. Now when I go out, and thankfully I do have a great village, a strong village, and like not just there emotionally, but like physically, because sometimes you need somebody to watch your kids. Um, that I can do that without any issues, and I
Yeah.
think I've now come to a point where I don't feel bad about asking. I don't feel like if I just want to go get my nails done, if I'm going to take a vacation, which means you have to have them 24 hours for X amount of days. I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about not always taking them where I go because not everything's for them. And
Mm-hmm.
mommy can't be full mommy if Lou's not Lou. Like if you know what I mean. If I need a drink, she's gonna get a drink. And sometimes yes, it means maybe I have to go out after I put them into bed, but she's still gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Still
Mm-hmm.
gonna go. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Because people will make you feel bad all day, and half of the time is because they didn't get to do what you get to do.
Yeah.
So don't people gonna talk all day long, even people who don't know you. And for the
All
people
day.
that that do matter and their opinions matter to you, you know, take what applies to you, and the rest let it go.
Leave it right where it's at.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any final tips you guys might have before we
Um,
wrap it up?
sure. So, I mean, for me, this is our rainbow baby, right? So, you know, embrace every little moment from the beginning to the end because you really don't know how, life is short. You don't know how long you'll have it. And you're on your own timeline. You're not on anyone else's timeline. So,
Mm-hmm.
you and your family and, you know, embrace the hard times because they'll only make you stronger and relish in the happy moments because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
good.
that.
Yeah, that's good. My advice, is really just to find your voice, especially during your pregnancy. I mean, even after your pregnancy, what works for one may not work for you. Um, Motherhood is not one size fits all. We don't all have to be in the same box, and there is no reason why you should be shamed or guilted because your parenting journey looks a little different than the next one. There is no blueprint. We're all just figuring it out. So I definitely want for women who are pregnant or trying to conceive or new mommies to just do what is best for you. And as long as you are in a space where you feel comfortable with the decisions you're making for you and your child, that's all you could ask for because there are so many things that you're going to feel guilty about as time goes on. You can't take anyone else's life experience and make it your own. And I think a lot of times we do that. It's like, well, my mom did this and my cousin did that with her kids, and it's fine. Like you said, Marlu, take what you can, leave the rest because not everything applies to you.
I just want to thank you guys for joining us. Tell us what you think. How has your motherhood journey been, or bad or good? Do you even want it? Some people listen. It's a carefree life. I would imagine. I just don't know what it's like
Yeah.
anymore. Um, but thank you for watching. Love you, ladies.